Hello and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Veronica Dani-Boy. It is about 57 days to the conduct of the 2019 elections in Nigeria. As events leading to the all-important polls unfold, we will always be here to keep you informed. Today on the program, Buhari orders security agents to fish out killers of Alex Badeh as manhunt for murderers of the late ex-defense chief begins. Protests greet dissolution of Ogun Imo APC executives as court sacks Oshomole-backed faction in Kwara State. And later on the show, INEC raises fears over security for 2019 elections as U.S. calls for violence-free polls. I will be hanging out with Martin Oloja, Gani Kayode, Balogun das GKB, and Janet Mba Afolabi. Gentlemen and lady of the press, thanks for coming to the program this evening.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, Journalist Hangout starts now. Well, learning where and when to take proactive or reactive steps in solving problems is a skill that has eluded Nigeria. Tuesday's killing of the country's former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Badeh, has thrown up that debate once again. Amidst arguments about what went wrong, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered security agents to fish out the killers of Badeh and bring them to justice. He also tasked them to ensure greater security and safety of all road users across the country. Now, the military and the police have launched probe into the murder of the former defense chief, with the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, sending some detectives to Nasarawa State to this regard. Now, several condemnations Martin has trailed this very sad and unfortunate incident. But in some quarters, this statement from the president is not new. It's a regular statement. And considering the late former defense chief's status, they expect such a statement. But then, how optimistic are you that the perpetrators would be brought to book?
Not optimistic at all, just as the synopsis writer said there, that something has eluded Nigeria. And again, I was just asking my brother here now, when was the Attorney General of the Federation killed? 2001? December. And they launched this kind of investigation. They ordered them to fish out the killer of the late Chief Bola Ige and other things. And we are still waiting for a report of the investigation. Anytime maybe somebody who was suspected to be part of the investigation offended them, they will just threaten. I'm not optimistic that anything good will come out of this, because it is not in our character to get such people.
That's a strong word.
It's not in our character. We are not serious about this kind of thing. You know, the other day, even another Major General, retired Major General in Plateau State, Akali, Idris Akali, in Plateau State, was killed like that and dumped in a pond. And we are still waiting for a result of investigation. They've arrested some people. But, you know, this continues to haunt us. And we have not shown any seriousness in arresting killers, whether herdsmen, whether killers of generals, killers of ordinary people. How many ordinary people? This one is just like, let's say, when beggars die, there are no comets sent, but the heavens themselves now, as this one, blaze forth the death of princes. This one, retired general, retired chief of defense staff. That's why it is concerning. How many people, ordinary people, die every day? Every day they kill people. So many unreported cases of robbery, killing, assassination, even kidnapping. They kidnapped some people last week and they killed them. You know, so many like that. And it is not in our character. People continue to call on government to be serious about security, because it is in the Constitution. Welfare and security of the people shall be the primary goals of government.
GKB.
Security.
He made a strong statement. It is not in our character. And some have said that escapism has become a part of our system. How we need to deal with this. We know that. But
this
then
one or things like this?
Things like this.
So let's clarify.
Yes.
Two things. We are not a serious nation when it comes to security.
Lives and property
Even
involved.
for our personal self. A lot of people will get home tired, been in traffic for 4 hours, and forget to lock their doors, to check whether their cars are even locked. Check on that. So we have this, I don't want to call it habits, we have this pedigree of being careless, even their personal safety. But having said that, members of the elite, the highest ranking people in our country, one of them has just been killed just like that. Expect the usual noise, but nothing will come out of it. Don't forget, this time last year, when the building in Akwa Ibom, I think, the church came down. Remember the letter that Garba Shehu wrote? He congratulated the governor for escaping the thing that came down. He wasn't concerned about those that died. He was concerned that one of them,
the governor,
escaped. That's more important than all the others who died in that particular problem. And they will apply to this. They will pick up some people. In a few weeks, they will parade some suspects. And that will be the end of it. Ultimately, nothing will get done. And at the end of the day, we move on to the next tragedy, and the next one, and the next one. Meanwhile, we spent good money building Institute of Strategic Studies in Jos, building multiple schools for defense, building an academy for DSS. And you wonder what they do in those places. All over the world, the country will take their best brains from the universities and set up a pattern of the worst thing that could happen and the very best thing that could happen. I'm sure none of this accommodates what we are saying now. And if a whole retired Major General or Air Marshal, Air Marshal can be plugged out, just like that, imagine what will happen to people of our level.
Well, Janet, you see, you've heard the analysis, and one wonders why it is so difficult for this homicide cases, why it's so difficult to use the instrumentality of the law to deal with these things head on.
Homicide cases are not ordinary cases. They are cases that you have to be very meticulous because it involves murder. And murder is a capital offense. Murder is not a bailable offense. So the police know that and they want to take their time to do it. Even the file for Delegiwa, I used to do the story when I was a reporter in Newswatch. Every year we're going to the police. Then it was Omeben, he's dead now, Chris Omeben. And he opened the file and said, Jenny, look at this file is open and it will always remain open until we find the killers. But coming back to this era, I am optimistic that the killers of Badeh may be found. And my reason...
Optimistic and you're still using may?
Yes, you can be optimistic and you use may.
Okay.
Because I'm not involved in the investigation. It's my opinion.
Okay.
So I'm optimistic that they may be found. I'm not saying they must be found. I didn't say they will be found. I chose my words very carefully.
Okay.
So I'm optimistic in the sense that it is an order from the president. The president has given an order and they must obey that order. It was like when Babangida asked the former IG, Etemiyan, when Anini was reigning, was terrorizing the entire country. And Babangida saw Etemiyan and said, my friend, where is Etemiyan? Go and fish him out. When a president gives you an order, it is an opportunity for you to fail or to succeed. And they will not want to fail. They will want to succeed and impress the president. Between last year, April, and now, 3 major or top military officers have been killed. The first one was in April, Daniel. They said Ikoli. They said he shot himself, although the family says no, he didn't shoot himself. It was not suicide as the police claim. But at least the police came up with an investigation and said this was what happened. And then the second one was the one where they mentioned at Idris Alkali. Yes. First, he was missing 2 months after he was found. But he was found because the people that stopped him, the angry youth that stopped him and took him away, were people that were known in that community. So they were trailed and they were traced, and then the body was discovered. But in this case, he went to his farm, and they said there was a strange roadblock. We have a lot of strange roadblocks on the way, especially in Abuja, Lagos, Abuja, Kefi, Abuja, Kaduna. So many of them that sometimes when you meet them, you just say, Lord have mercy. Because you know that these ones may be fake, and you are just toying with your life, even stopping for them to check you. So I believe that the police, they must have thrown, they said go and fish him out, they must have thrown all manners of nets, all sizes of nets into different oceans to go and fish out this man, the killers of Badeh. But I hope that they'll be able to do that very soon. Because January, yeah, I hope so. Because by January the 10th, that's like 23 days time, he's supposed to be it was supposed to be 62 years old. So if they can come up on January 10 and parade the suspects and prosecute them and try them, that would be a great birthday gift to Badeh.
To a dead man.
To the dead man. It does not matter. Some people are heroes.
But how many we've heard about, we've seen parades, because the same issue with Alkali, we've seen parades. But then most of the time, that's where it ends, gentlemen. But we need to move further, because if we don't, these cases, issues like this will continue.
Yeah, definitely it will continue. We need, that's why I said it's not been in our character to investigate and show matter like this. It's in the character of the people in office and in power to give directive. Yeah, if it were not broadcasting, if it were our own print now, we will Google and find out the number of directives, executive orders that have been given like that to fish out the killers of this, to fish out the killers of that. Everywhere.
Everybody relocate to Maiduguri.
Relocate to Maiduguri. They even killed some in Melete or in Borno. How many soldiers were killed?
How many others?
How many others? Even to fish out Boko Haram people, even headsmen, killer headsmen, and what have you.
We always fishing.
We always fish. We always give directive like this, and everybody will be writing stories. After 3 days, another event will come, and they just take the steam out of that kind of directive, and we may not find anything. But people continue to note that insecurity. It's election time, and this is a kind of directive that can have some consequences if the police and other security agencies do not carry out their order. If they don't, they will add it to the number of unresolved murder cases in Nigeria. And since security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government, they will say insecurity is getting too much and everybody is getting scared. It's a year of election, and it can be a period of consequences.
All right, we have a caller on the line from Lagos. Olushola, welcome to the show. Go ahead with your contribution. Shola, are you there? Shola? All right, do call us back as soon as you can. Now, GKB, I'll ask you again the same question I asked Janet, saying that why is it so difficult to use, the instrumentality of the law to bring perpetrators to book? Because justice has to be seen, to be done, else we'll keep moving in this circle.
We all know why. The wheel of justice turns very, very slowly. But it turns. So something that ought to take place under 3-4 days by the Nigerian court system will take 6 years. And we've been in a system where people were caught in certain countries, and they were in court under 48 hours. The order also retain them was there, and judgment was given under 1 month. We don't have that kind of character. The only state that tried to set up parameters and timelines for judgments was Lagos State government under the former governor, Fashola, where they insisted that certain things must be done in writing before you can come on board and waste everybody's time. It's not the police that is at fault. The police have done what they're supposed to do. They've caught a suspect. Whether is the perpetrator or not is irrelevant. They have a suspect for a murder case, but they can spend the next 5 years in court trying to get that case. At the end of the day, most of the suspects will have died, one way or the other. Right. You know cases where suspects have died long by the time they get to where they will give judgments. All this you have to work at to ensure that justice is done in a timeline element that we can really work up. That okay, I'm taking the editor to court. I'm sure I'll get justice by the end of next year. There should be a timeline that people can know they will get justice, not an open-ended thing that we use right now.
In this case, quickly, Janet, what would you expect?
like I said before, I expect that police, of course, will swing into action as usual. There will be so much to be done now. After a while, there will be no steam. And I would like to add that between 1999, talking about notable Nigerians, between 1999 and 2014, 51 notable Nigerians have been killed, including journalists, and one of their own, who was in Guardian, Godwin Abroko. No, Godwin Abroko too. Yes, and Bayo.
All right, let's move on now. It was the late American author Lyman Brightson who once quipped that, quote, "The qualities that get a man into power are not those that lead him once established to use power wisely," end quote. And when one considers the euphoria that greeted the emergence of Adams Oshiomhole as the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, then the statement by Brightson could be apt. The crisis rocking the APC in most states are becoming intractable under Oshiomhole's watch. Now, protests greet his decision to dissolve the party executives in some states. APC chairman in Ogun State, Derin Adebiyi, has rejected the dissolution, describing the move as an exercise in futility. The APC in Imo took it a notch higher as the embattled party chairman, Dan Nwafo, said they have petitioned the Inspector General of Police over illegal dissolution of the party executives. In Kwara State, a High Court sitting in Ilorin dissolved the party officials enthroned by the former Labour leader and recognized the Ishola Balogun Fulani faction. Well, I'll start with you, Janet. Now, the Ogun APC says this is an exercise in futility, and Imo is saying that this act is illegal and ready to challenge this action in court. Now, what do you make of Oshiomhole's actions first? Let's start with that.
Oshiomhole is acting, like a man. When you give him power or position, that's when you know his true character. Oshiomhole is coming from the background of a Labour leader. He's been used to the Labour kind of power, and now he's gone into politics and does not know that it's a different ball game. So,
he was a governor for 8 years.
So how is it that
somebody who had come from background of the Labour for so long as a young guy, and then became governor, and then came into politics. He may not have played for 8 years. He went there as a governor. He did not start politics as a local government chairman. He did not start as maybe House of Assembly member.
Neither did Amosu. Neither did Okorocha.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That when you give a man power and money, that's when you know his true character. Those are the things that bring out, even if he's a poor man. I'm not saying Oshiomhole is a poor man, but when you give a poor man those two things that I've mentioned, it will bring out the true character that were imprisoned by poverty. So in this case, Oshiomhole may be acting he may not be acting on his own. He may be taking orders from some people. He's a chairman, but he cannot take unilateral decisions, to do the kind of thing that he may do. And on the part of Amosu and Okorocha, they too have seen themselves as power brokers, that whatever they say in their states must stand. And Oshiomhole may not want it that way. So it's conflict of interest, conflict of maybe it's an ego thing, but I don't think it's more of ego. It's about interest. The two governors want to go to the Senate, and they also want to present candidates for gubernatorial election. And Oshiomhole is saying, no, your candidates will not go. So their candidates, according to what people are saying, have gone to other parties and will be supported by these two governors. And these two governors still want to contest senatorial under APC. So that's where all the crises, are coming from.
Yes.
And as the chairman of the party, Oshiomhole wants to put his feet down and show that.
But there are implications to this putting your foot down.
For every action, there's a reaction.
For this decision, because the National Publicity Secretary of the party is saying that the two governors have publicly expressed the fact that they would support candidates in other parties, so they can't trust to work honestly with these people. Is this enough to dissolve, the committees in this?
Well, what people keep saying Oshiomhole, it's the National Working Committee, really. Oshiomhole is just the leader.
On the face of the committee.
And they have the power to do whatever they want as far as, that's what they call it, working committee. They're always available to make sure the party runs effectively. Yes, what they were accused of course, germane. It is anti-party activity Plain and simple. It's like somebody telling you, the wife telling her husband, I'll cook for you, or I'll cook for the children, but I'm going to sleep in Mr. B's house at night. It's the same principle. Don't worry, I'll cook for the children. That's their own. I'll go to the Senate as a PC man, but I'm going to ensure that we lose the gubernatorial election. There's nothing higher than, there's no anti-party activity higher than that, apart from putting gun in somebody's head. So the party has taken the right decision to expel or to suspend or to replace, depending on the power of incumbency, those they think are going against the will of the party. Don't forget, there are 2 weeks, a 2 weeks hiatus between the presidential and national assembly elections as well as gubernatorial election. That's the window that the party is trying to close here. Yes. Because we realize that once Okorocha and Amosu became elected members of Nigerian Senate, the party is dead in those states. They will use all things available to ensure the party lose the gubernatorial and certain elements of House Assembly. So they don't need to take on, it doesn't require rocket science to know that it will come to this sorry pass. From day one, it was obvious that sooner or later something will have to give. Don't forget, these 2 governors spent a humongous amount of time visiting the president to see whether it's going to overturn. Ultimately, the president let the party have his way. And I want to see what will happen next. Because the party has done the right thing. Okay. And by doing this, they show what they promised to do when they came in. That there will be only one party and only one power. And that power will be the National Working Committee.
Yes, well, GKP says the party, the committee has done the right thing. But then there are implications, like I said, to this decision.
Well, there are implications. But, still, this consensus building mechanism is also not in our character. You see how these 2 governors, Imo and Ogo, and somehow the one of Zamfara, they want to run their own party. They want to run their own government. They say that there is a party. There is party supremacy. It's not. They don't want to accept, but it is not new. From whether PDP or all these things, since 1999, we have been seeing this kind of thing. The governors have been wielding powers. The governors have been installing precedents. The governors have been installing all sorts of people. That was why, the last time we discussed this matter over what Oshomole was shot, this same Oshomole side of a former president that God will punish him and all this thing, we said that his own remark about those governors, all he needed to do was to build the peace and say things that will minister grace, and you said healing to the people, and not to be talking anyhow to them. All of them, I think what my sister Janet was talking about was these political management skills that he doesn't have. That's why people go to business school, people go to school of government, people go to this school to learn skills of leadership in this matter. Managing political party was the theme of NIMPS you mentioned now. In 2013, I was with them in Washington, D.C. We went to the Republican Institute. We went to Democratic Institute. That is the research arm of those 2 dominant political parties in the United States. I was the only newspaper journalist like that that went with them. And you saw so many researchers, PhDs, in those 2 institutes set up by act of the Congress to help the political parties to build their skill to manage their affairs in a way that will see the difference between the Republican and the and then to serve the people, to deliver service to the people and what have you. But we here look at this issue of a court now deciding everything until the Supreme Court makes the last statement. The president cannot sit well. Governors, House of Representatives members. The judiciary is so important in shaping democracy in our country. I remember this Wole Olanipekun SAN drew attention to this. He is an expert in that area, election petition. He drew attention to the implications of allowing the court to be deciding everything. When you disagree with a member or the chairman of your party, you go to court. A 2-man panel will now decide. We have had a governor here who nobody voted for. Who never contested any election. These are the things that, these are part of the trouble with our democracy here. These are pre-election issues. People are fighting what will happen during election,
And
pre-election
afterwards.
issues and after election. These are the reasons our people cannot manage themselves. Our people cannot discipline, cannot conquer themselves. They can't conquer self. And this is dangerous to building a stable democracy. If you cannot listen to your chairman, you don't want to listen to your party, I must have my way. Why will a governor leave his own state capital, carry traditional rulers to go and appeal to the president to prevail on a party to do his will? Why can't you abide by whatever has happened and say, okay, because of the supremacy of the party, I will abide by this? No. I will disrupt the party. I will ensure that our candidate will not win. We will work for the president, but we will work against the governor of our state. How do you develop a country? How do you develop a state with this kind of attitude? Their attitude is very, very important, and people should watch it. If they disrupt this democracy, and hold some of these people responsible. Well, we are not too young to read what killed the First Republic. Yeah. Right. It started this way from Operation Wettier, from this world, from the West. It started from the West. It engulfed the whole nation, and that republic died.
Well, some people thought they have the power to cut down the power of another region. But that's not for today.
No, it's not for today.
All right, but then let me still ask, Janet, what do you think this can do to the party? Because this is a party that is seeking re-election for 2019. These issues...
It's going to weaken the power of the party in those states, apparently. It may be a replica of what happened in Lagos State during Otedola, the Agbala Jobi, Femi Agbala Jobi, and Sarumi. You know, when there was so much crisis in SDP. I used to cover SDP and NRC. So in SDP, there was so much crisis like this, and so NRC Otedola won the election out of Ote, and his name came to pass. That it was the crisis in the other party that actually gave him the chance. But I hope that it does not happen in these two states.
All right, let's quickly take this break. When we return, the discussion continues. To stay with us. All right, you're still watching the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangouts. Now, GKB, earlier I gave you details of what the National Publicity Secretary said, and he said this decision is to protect the party's interests. Yeah. Does this decision really protect the party's interests? Seeing what Janet said is the implication.
Well, they are the custodians of the party as of today. And like the editor said, if you don't let supremacy of the party take hold in our democracy, everybody will become like area father. And then we have isolated cases of godfathers everywhere. And there will be no party. What Mr. Isonilu said is the correct thing, for two reasons. One, I agree that the resolution mechanism of the party may be very weak. But it does not take away the fact that these people were elected to run the party for a specific period of time. And until and unless there is a national convention to kick them out, they are still the law of the party. And if they don't move quickly to curb what I call the extravagance, the way of the two governors, others will join. Don't mind it, other people will still work on the ground for other parties, don't get it wrong. But these people have the infantry to say it aloud in front of the party that we are going to deal with you.
Perhaps something triggered their, voicing out loud.
Of course, we know what happened. They said there was no primary. They went to the president. They set up a panel. The panel returned that the things were done properly. ANEC was there. And the law says once ANEC is part of the process, that process is valid. Doesn't matter if there are only two people. As far as ANEC says, I was there and I saw it. Under the law is valid. So the next thing to do is to work out, to negotiate now. I think that's where Adams missed it. Yes. Okay, fine, you've lost this. Let's give you A. We'll give you B. That's politics, give and take. But both of them have made up their mind, or the three people have made up their mind that it's either my way or no way. And that is where we are going. Why does it affect the party? Of course. But don't forget, these three too have a stake in ensuring that Muhammadu Buhari is returned. That is fundamental in this fight. It is the day after. For the states, all politics are local. It's the day after that 2 weeks window that we're going to have the drama.
What drama do you foresee?
A lot of it. That 2 weeks, if Buhari should win, you know how people now, bandwagon.
Yes.
If he loses, again, bandwagon. So I don't want to talk about that.
That was why the order of election amendment law was contentious and...
once the president emerges,
no, let's get the presidential election first.
To shift.
So all these governors are making noise. Once Buhari is re-elected, you see some new songs.
What if Buhari is not re-elected?
Another noise, so, which he had already talked about. But then let's go to Kwara now, where the courts have spoken. Martin upholding the Balogun Fulani faction as the constitutionally constituted committee in the state. And seeing how close this faction is to the Senate president, is there anything to worry about?
Well, we are not part of of the structure there,
because
but they want to. They have seen the organic committee as the committee that can deal with their old man, the committee that they have returned now, the committee that the old order, the old setup that they sacked. That they are returning to be in charge of election and in charge of everything. They have seen that they are on ground and they can do something. But it is still worrisome that it is court and not consensus building that is returning this. That is what we are saying, that the party should find a way of holding meetings, even in the night. Even let the media not be part of this thing, to hold and blame themselves. And in Yoruba land, they say that when you see elders coming out frowning and grumbling out of a room, it means that they have spoken truth to themselves. But when you see them smiling out of a room, it means that they have deceived themselves. They have been deceiving these people. Most of these people have been deceiving themselves. They have not been telling themselves the truth. Political party management is not a tea party. People go to school to study political party management these days, because the Constitution recognizes that you cannot be anything unless you pass through a political party. It's a constitutional issue. No independent candidates anywhere. You have to pass through a political party, and it's local. All politics concerning party management is local. Go to your ward and register as a member of this party. You have to go to your ward. You have to go back home. It's a serious issue that people are trivializing. And our people should have a way of managing their issue instead of running to court, instead of going to press to hold press conference to blast their members. Yesterday, even a member of the party, an official of the party, said most of the people heckling the president. Look at the misbehavior at the National Assembly yesterday. Say were people who did not get their ticket. They didn't get their return ticket. They are aggrieved members, and nobody has appeased them. They are talking to them through press conferences. You can't manage people. You can't manage adults like that. You can't be talking to people and blasting people because some people are visiting.
That's the job of the caucus.
It's job of the caucus. They should lock themselves up and talk and say, look, this is our party. Election time, we have to manage perception. Because if we are perceived as a failure, we are going to fail at the poll. So let's resolve issues. And the president himself is the leader of the party. And all these governors, instead of, when 3 governors, how many governors do they have in APC? How come they can't come together to resolve all these their issues? They can't make telephone calls, they can't use this, they can't use that. Before their very eyes, even the opposition party went for their convention. Look at the way they organized their own convention in Port Harcourt, despite everything. If you put your ears to the ground, you will see how they resolved some of those things. They should borrow from them. It's election year, and I think it's in their own interest to resolve their issues through consensus building mechanism, instead of fighting, instead of blasting through press conferences and what have you.
Or grandstanding.
Grandstanding.
Is there much that can be done with all of this? That consulting, there are talks about consulting to suspend Governor Okorocha and Amosu, but then do you think that there could be a resolution before the elections to any of these things?
I don't think there can be any resolution, because it's about self-interest, it's about their own personal gains. You know, that's why they're doing what they're doing. And in Kwara, I think what happened is a good sign they went to court, those that were aggrieved went to court and got themselves back. Why they came back is because the court has put them back there. And it's a sign to the...
All right, if you could just hold the thought. We have Reverend Ajao on the line. Welcome to the program. Go ahead with your contribution.
Why they came back is because the court has put them back there.
Reverend Ajao, are you there?
Lost.
Are you there? Do call again if you can. All right, go ahead.
Okay, the genesis of the resolution was because Saraki defected to PDP. And so they saw the committee members as double agents, and therefore they can no longer be trusted, and the committee was dissolved. You know, so the court said it's null and void. Perhaps that is why they learned a lesson and now did not do the same in Ogun State. They now came up with dissolution they now set up a caretaker committee from the state to local government to ward level. At least they are not saying you are not existing, but they've dissolved it and they now put up a caretaker committee, unlike what happened in Kwara, where they brought in a new executive. So I think they learned lesson. And someone was saying that Oshomole, as maybe I've been told not to talk, let the publicity secretary do the talking. You know, yesterday after the meeting, journalists were waiting for him for the whole day. And when they cited him, the patient ones ran to him and he said, no, wait for the National Publicity Secretary to talk to you. Meanwhile, the guy had left the venue. So maybe he didn't want to say anything that will make people see him as a careless talker. And you know that any careless expression, even as an editor, even as a journalist, a careless expression can set a whole country ablaze. Words have to be carefully chosen because words have great power to destroy, to build, to hurt, to kill. Or to, yes, there is power, so much power in the world. So we need, if as politicians, as editors, in whatever capacity that we find ourselves operating, be careful of your choice of words.
All right, let's move forward. Now, security of lives is as key to existence as it is to credible conduct of elections, especially in a fragile democracy like ours. So when the electoral umpire expresses concern about security during the 2019 elections, then that could not be far from the truth. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has called on security agents to ensure professionalism and neutrality during the polls. Professor Yakubu, who during Police Stakeholders Security Summit in Abuja said they must uphold their responsibility to ensure, or to secure rather, the environment for the elections. Showing similar concern, the United States government, through its Consulate Public Affairs Officer, Russell Brooks, urged Nigerian political stakeholders to ensure that the elections are free, fair, and violence-free. He warned that America would take serious sanctions against politicians who perpetrate electoral fraud during the polls. At Chikebi, INEC's concern being raised concerning insecurity, if it's it's always one of those things that has to be taken into cognizance. But then saying that the security agents must uphold that they ensure they carry out their duties.
Professionalism and
professionalism and all of neutrality. How do you see that happening?
Well, the man is aiming for the moon, and I commend him. Because you know how he reacted to the Ekiti election, when people were giving people money right at the poll, and then they were sending money through transfer. Once you show proof. There are certain things that the law does not envisage when they were set up. They thought it would be gentlemen, that would be normal. You know how normal human beings behave. But we are Nigerians, and we are a special breed of people. So what he's saying is this: once the police and other security agencies maintain neutrality, this election will not only be free and fair, will be seen to be free and fair. That is what he's concerned about. And the American woman as well saying that, no, there's no perfect election anywhere. Even in the US, there's always votes, they use this language. They block black people from voting.
Yes.
They have a way of ensuring that where they are majority not in their favor, they are not allowed to vote, as it were. But what we are saying is that once the election, and that's what Professor Yakubu is trying very hard to clear, once the professionals who are handling security are professional and neutral in the assignment for that day, then the election will still have problems, but will not be based on the fact that they colluded with politicians not to make it work. I agree with him. It's nice to aspire, and I hope the Nigerian system will allow him to get to that.
The Nigerian system, Martin, what GKB is saying, can we really achieve neutrality and professionalism? It is possible, isn't it?
Oh, the answer is blowing in the wind again. Professionalism and neutrality. You know, the INEC chairman is worried. I think that's why,
yeah.
from what they are saying in Ekiti and even Osun, you know that even journalists had to appeal to higher authorities to allow them to even cover the rerun. Yeah. That police already took position and they will say, who asked you to come here? You know, the way they were taken, you know, elsewhere. Non-modesty, I have covered some elections outside the country. I said so before, the one that brought Obama to power in 2008. I also covered the inauguration for The Guardian in those days. You know, you see only local government officials. Even in Benin Republic here, you see local governments that will carry a ballot box and even ballot paper, they go to police station, and even at the end of the election, Benin Republic here, they will carry everything and they go to collation center.
Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. But here, you can see now, election is our life. Political parties, even ruling parties, people who have not performed, they want to depend on the electoral process to return to office. They will be bragging. It is only in this kind of place that the politicians and candidates are not afraid of the people. People are afraid of them during election. And most of them will want to depend on security, these agencies and all this police to have their way. And that is why this Inspector General of Police should ensure that perception management is in his favor this time, because people have already concluded from reports that these police this time will not be neutral. From what they have done in Ekiti and Osun and some other places, that they will not be neutral. And the way he himself normally carries himself over this thing, the way other people, the way they get this one to do this, to do that, they will not be trusted. So there is still time. The election has not taken place. And that is why we are discussing this one, for them to manage themselves, to control themselves in such a way that we will see to have been done, we'll see professionalism and neutrality. Because there are so many political parties. You see, some of the political parties now have gone to court for their exclusion from ordinary debate. So they themselves, if they see any action, and you see, despite the ban and everything, no law, there is digital evidence everywhere now. You see, somewhere, somehow, some people have powerful camera, they will capture whatever police will do. Vote buying, you know, there's a vote market now. That one has just emerged in our own lexicon, vote buying and vote selling. And when security agencies see people who are buying and selling, will they keep quiet? Will they arrest them? Will they draw attention to it? You know,
Perhaps
even though they didn't draw
things
attention.
that need to be addressed.
Yes, they said it will be addressed. The other time, even though they didn't address it, an international news media recorded everything. And before they even left the place, they started sharing. Look at how they were buying, who they were in Ekiti, how they were buying and selling votes, or taking money and doing all sorts of things. So, but there is digital evidence in this age of the big data. You can't escape justice. You can't escape evidence. Evidence against the police if they are not neutral, if they are not professional. And that will be a disaster for the next election, because when the former president launched his book recently, you saw how people were pouring a comium on him for the way he conducted himself.
Martin,
the way
let's bring Janet into this discussion now. You've heard Martin's submission talking about professionalism and neutrality, and I ask again, it's achievable, isn't it?
It's not achievable in this dispensation. Maybe during the Babangida transition period, when people were not really so much interested in politics, or not a do or die affair, because they were not sure if the result would be eventually annulled. or or at the end of the result, Babangida says, no, you have to do it all over again. At that point, there was professionalism. At that point, there was neutrality. But from 1999 till date, there is no more, I don't want to use it, generally, there is no more neutrality and professionalism, because these policemen are Nigerians. They have their own biases, they have their own prejudices, and they have their own people that they support. And the person who is sending them there, whether as the IG or the commissioner who is asking them to go on that assignment, if he's neutral, his men will be neutral. They are taking orders from above, and so they carry out the orders that they are given. So, and if they go to a state where the boss says this is what you must do, that is what they will do. So I don't really see much of neutrality and professionalism. That is why the INEC chairman, he may have seen more than us, he may know so much more than us, and that's why he's expressing the fear. And another thing is, on election days, you hear large numbers of policemen have been sent to Port Harcourt, have been sent to Lagos. A couple of times when I come here to analyze the election, and I move around the town, I don't see the policemen. They say 1 million policemen taken to Lagos. And then you begin to wonder, where are they? Are they in the creeks? I mean, is Lagos where there are creeks? You don't see them, but people say, some analysts are saying that they just use those figures either to intimidate voters on that day, troublemakers, or to raise money, to raise money for themselves. That's what some analysts have come out to say, because how many policemen do we have? By the time you send 50,000 here, 100,000 here, you've exhausted the entire force. So I hope that there'll be neutrality, but I really doubt it.
Doubt. Anyway, the US is saying that we must also ensure that the elections are free and fair. And then we've had this signing, political parties or candidates signing a peace accord, just as it happened in 2015. Do you think that that is enough, really, to ensure that this...
For the cameras, yeah, that's enough. For the PR, that is enough. But reality is that, I keep telling people, the real elections will be the second election, the one for the House of Assembly and the gubernatorial election.
If you could just hold the thought, we have Emmanuel on the line calling from Sokoto. Emmanuel, welcome to the program. Go ahead with your contribution. Emmanuel, are you there? All right, the callers again, as soon as you can establish contacts with us. All right, GKB.
Yeah, I was sorry. Yeah, I was talking about the things that we needed to do. What was the question?
The question was, we signed a peace accord, then in 2015
that's all we are going to do. Like I said, all politics are local. And immediately after, I know a lot of people behave themselves during the presidential and national assembly election to a reasonable degree. There will be violence here and there, pockets of violence everywhere. But the real job for INEC is when you come down to the local elections, the gubernatorial and the House of Assembly. But like we said earlier, all these presupposes is based solely on the results of the presidential election, because it will embolden some to weaken some. Those who have states under wraps and they've lost at the center may decide that they are good enough to be picked. And there are some who will lose out at both the federal and the states who decide to cause trouble. And they know they've lost out, but they're going to make it impossible for the winner to emerge. All these, of course, are facts that we know as journalists. But having said that, my fear, again, is not with the presidential election, not with the National Assembly elections, it's with the local elections. That's why we see whether the peace accord will hold. For the presidential election, I have no fear. Things will go fairly well. Because nobody is sure who's going to win. So we are going to flex muscle in areas of strength. It's the after party. And
you think we will see a repeat of what happened in 2015?
Precisely. And then you now know, because some people will never work together at the local level. They would rather die than work for another person.
Martin, you share the same view?
Well, definitely. You know, it's a vast country. It's not like 2015, for instance, two giants are contesting from the north.
Yeah.
From the same area, one from northeast, one from northwest, and they are both Muslims. It's a different ball game from 2015 when one from the north, a Christian from the south, a Muslim from the north, and this former head of state from this, and a sitting president from the south. It's a different ball game. Yeah. Different ball game, and the atmospherics slightly different from 2015. A lot of indices, a lot of data from the economic this and that. But you can see from campaigns, people are not addressing issues. They are even preparing the ground for violence. They are accusing each and one another of this and that. Instead of facing issues, instead of facing even National Bureau of Statistics released yesterday, how many people are out of job? Instead of facing all those things, in order to just ensure that there is peace, let's use data. Why are you not addressing this? Why are you not addressing that? We are accusing each other of this, of that. No, it's this. You did this. You slept with that man's wife. No, you stole when you were a student union leader. You did this, you did that. This is what is driving this politics now. But what INEC is saying is that security agencies should conduct themselves well in a way that they will show themselves as officers of the law, national officers of the law. Again, this is one of the reasons some people who may not be believed will be talking about restructuring. And good a thing, the vice president the other day set up a committee to decentralize operations of the police. These are issues that can address this because somebody, as she said, giving order somewhere, it will reflect the character. Once the Inspector General of Police gives an order to an AIG in charge of a zone, and that one gives an order to a commissioner, even if you are a governor, all those security people they have posted to you are federal officers. If you are a governor of a state, even if you are a local government officer, they have posted some people who are guarding you. On the day of election, they can withdraw them. An order from Abuja can withdraw all the oddlies, all the CSOs and all those things around you in order to have their way. But we have a responsibility at this juncture to say, Inspector General of Police is the federal police. All of us depend on this police. The police should be professional, should be neutral. I don't want to take what the American is saying very seriously. I told ourselves, it's an insult that a foreigner should be telling us how to behave. I think it's an insult that a foreigner should be talking to us. It's not an insult to them as diplomats, but they should consign themselves to their diplomatic duty here and not how they will not accept this.
Because
they will not accept
that was what I was going to go to.
I don't want to dignify.
I just ignore that.
Yes, I don't want to dignify that one with a comment because it's a waste of time. They don't have no responsibility to be telling us. We have a responsibility to talk to ourselves that our police officers should be professional and that they should be neutral on the days of election. And I don't want to talk about
do you see
the
it as such too?
What
something we should just take with a wave of the hand?
Well, I don't think so. That's his opinion, and not Martin's, I mean the American, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it. We also comment on the elections in their countries. We give advices, we go there as international observers, so, and we make comments and we write stories. So I don't think that we should take it react to it in a manner that we say it's not their business. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But what I know is that this election is going to be a tough one. It's not going to be business as usual because of the people involved. And my advice is that they should face their manifestos and leave personal attacks
out of it.
Yes.
Yes. Quickly, your final word, GKB.
We are all waiting to see what will happen. The prayer is that it's violence-free, free and fair.
Okay.
As much as that can be achieved within the context of our reality.
All right.
Definitely, it's my hope that this one will deepen democracy. Because people are talking about 1960 anything now, 63, 62, 63 up to 66 when we lost a republic. And we will not lose any republic as a result of this election.
Amen.
That is my prayer.
Amen.
And let the people of God say amen.
Amen.
Thank you for coming to the program and thank you for your contributions so far. Well, that's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Danny Boy. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.